Terry George is an Irish filmmaker who's well known for his movies about injustice and human suffering. He's worked with Jim Sheridan on several movies about the Troubles in Northern Ireland. These movies include Some Mother's Son and In the Name of the Father, both of which are really good movies. He also wrote and directed Hotel Rwanda, and now he's returned with The Promise, a movie set during the Armenian Genocide. This is interesting for me because I've only ever seen two movies about the Armenian Genocide, and both of them were passion projects. One was this film, and the other was Adam Magoyan's Ararat. Both of them are emotional movies that are breathtakingly ambitious, but the ambition comes out in wildly different ways. Ararat forms a complex, multi-layered story which tackles not just the genocide, but also how the genocide is remembered and forgotten and suppressed and reenacted for a film. The Promise's ambition is focused on its production quality and, bizarrely, the story of the production itself. Unlike Ararat, The Promise is very straightforward. It takes a devastating period in human history and creates fictional characters to help show what's happening on the human level. The three main characters are Mikhail, Anna, and Chris. Played by Oscar Isaac, Mikhail is an optimistic young man from a small town studying to be a doctor in Constantinople. While he's staying with rich relatives, he meets Anna, played by Charlotte Le Bon. Anna is an Armenian woman who grew up in Paris, and she's in a relationship with Chris, played by Christian Bale. Chris is an idealistic American reporter looking for a cause. Mikhail is engaged to a woman from his home village, and Anna is engaged to Chris, but that doesn't stop Mikhail and Anna from developing a connection. As you've probably guessed, this leads to a love triangle which is stretched out across the length of the Armenian Genocide as our characters are all caught up in the storm. In the vein of a sweeping epic, The Promise cost nearly $100 million to make, and all of that money actually came from one guy, billionaire Kirk Kerkorian, who's also of Armenian descent. Not only that, 100% of this film's profits are going to charity. That's actually what helps elevate my respect for this movie. It isn't just a cash-in on tragedy. It's an honest attempt to tell a horrific story which is still furiously disputed to this day. The film is at its strongest when dealing with the actual events. We see the final days of the Ottoman Empire. We see the Armenian minority turned on by the Turkish majority, which leads to a systematic genocide that is furiously denied by Turkish authorities when foreign dignitaries ask questions. And apparently the movie has more fact in it than you would think. There's a really chilling request made of an American ambassador in the film, and apparently the request was taken verbatim from the ambassador's memoirs. And meanwhile, the three main characters have to struggle to stay together and often struggle to stay alive as well. It might be insensitive to put a love triangle in the forefront of a real tragedy, but Titanic and Pearl Harbor both proved that there's an audience for that kind of film. In all honesty, I think The Promise actually deals with this far better than either Titanic or Pearl Harbor did. But admittedly, the love triangle was still my least favorite part of the film. I mean, it's well woven into what's going on in the bigger picture, but it just didn't interest me as much as the actual historical events. Of all the performances, I would say that Mikhail has the most development, and it allows Oscar Isaac to give the best performance in the film. Chris dangles between the heroic outsider and the hapless rival for Anna's affections. Sadly, Anna is the least developed of the three. She drifts between the two men's attention spans, falling for one and then falling for the other. And in the last half of the film, she primarily serves to just protect a group of children throughout the journeys. Ultimately, I would say that there is a lot of goodwill behind this movie, and it does a lot of things right. I'm not going to say it's an incredible film, but it's definitely worth seeing. And you can rest assured that your money will go to a good cause.